shared with Lynn was there was a little discussion about the third story, something about the DA moving his office down here for a third story, and something was made the mention of Loudon City actually paying for a third story themselves to house the DA. It was just a discussion. It was nothing more than a discussion because the district attorney has shared that they are renting at least 12,000 square feet over at, or I'm sorry, they are renting at a rate of $12,000 a month space where they are. So Loudon City had.
Where are they at now?
I thought it was
Over
9,000.
They're still in Loudon County?
Not Roane County.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Roane County.
Want to buy some real estate in Renton?
Yes.
Yes. Dang.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wish to address the commission?
I won't be here next month, so you get a break from listening to me. Susan Gingrich from Tellico Village. Regarding the last commission meeting, I have never been asked to leave, kicked out, escorted from, or ejected in any manner from any public meeting. I have also never been arrested, received a summons, or even had a speeding ticket. It was, however, the first time I had a private conversation with an elected official, which included the politician insulting me. I left the last commission meeting independently for personal reasons. The next day, I communicated with Mayor Bradshaw, apologizing for my misunderstanding and asking him to thank members of the Capital Projects Committee for their assistance in the Tellico Village Library situation. The budget process this year was an example of bad government purposely hiding the truth from its citizens. Unlike past years, nothing at all was posted on the website. The published budget notice did not reflect the final budget proposal, including almost $1 million in new funding. This budget hurts Loudon County residents by increasing county taxes for Lenore City residents. It might hurt all of us too, big time, next year, if growth is insufficient to fund current county government operations. This budget takes away education funding at a time the Loudon County School District is in crisis, and teachers won't even get a percentage pay increase, including some teachers who will not receive a step raise either. I mentioned the school district situation in a previous public comment, asking for Commission's help. I know some on Commission are concerned about the future of the school district. You should all be, because you independently and collectively represent Loudon County, including children, parents, and county taxpayers. It took angry parents and other concerned citizens, including some of us in the village, to finally address a terrible situation allowed to continue for years because of elected officials who were either ignorant of or turned a blind eye to all the problems. Who was appointed the next director of schools matters a great deal. If the last appointed director was the most qualified of the candidates, I cannot even imagine the other candidates. We need someone qualified and genuinely acting in the best interest of students, parents, teachers, and especially all county taxpayers. The public needs a say in the selection process because based on past performance, most of us aren't very trusting of elected politicians. Now, as far as Commission, I have a big problem with the way this new courthouse annex is being pushed and planned at rocket speed. The jail overcrowding situation was dangerous, yet it appears that some of the same elected officials who allowed it to fester for over 5 years are the ones rushing to get the new annex building. Per usual, the public is being kept pretty much in the dark. Thank goodness for the News Herald, and also for some trusted resources. Commissioners not directly involved in this annex project, do you trust that the best interest of your constituents and county taxpayers are being served by actions of the few elected officials directly involved? As evidenced by tonight's agenda, it does seem that some office holders are more interested in working against others in office than working with them to benefit our county. Maybe this is just the Loudon County way of doing things, but that doesn't make it right and it doesn't make it best for all of us. I and others want better, more open government, responsible and responsive to taxpayers and all citizens of Loudon County. It's unfortunate that as a taxpayer and resident of Loudon County, you almost need to be a licensed private investigator to discover what is actually going on in the government we fund. I will work with others and any elected official interested in better Loudon County government. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just quickly, Ms. Gingrich, you have stood here before us time and time again and accused us of things, secrets, and non-transparency, and it's not true. You can't prove it. You can't. I'm not asking you a question.
Robert's rules.
I'm not caring
You
about
have
your
no
Robert's
right
rules.
to reply to someone making
I
public
can reply
comments.
to anybody I want to. You've accused us with no evidence whatsoever. You just stand there and say we're violating this and we're keeping secrets. You're not going to find a more transparent government body than Loudon County right here.
Website.
It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about. This is as open a government as you're ever going to find. You can say it all day long, but it doesn't make it true. I get really, for all of us, we get really tired of being accused of things that just aren't true and you provide no
Well,
evidence.
if you're not doing
Come
it,
the
then
truth.
you shouldn't feel guilty.
Nobody's guilty. We just get tired of being accused by people that don't know what they're talking about. And you know, I might even say to you, if you got the answers, why don't you run for office? But I would say you did, and you got your eyeballs beat out.
I got 40%,
What's that tell you?
40% of the vote from people that didn't even know me.
You lost.
So what?
Okay?
You deserve to lose.
Well, I have. I've lost almost as many as I've won. But that doesn't give you the right to stand here and accuse us of things.
This back and forth is totally useless. People they can believe me or they can believe you.
I would put that to a vote pretty quick without any problem at all.
Well, I don't believe votes are everything.
Well, of course,
Chairman want to do something about
whether
that?
they believe you or whether they believe me.
Oh, come on, Ben.
Yeah. Well, just if you come up here anymore, get your facts straight.
No.
Tell the
I don't.
truth.
No.
Just
I have a
because
right-
you say it doesn't make it
I have a First Amendment
true.
right to say what I will.
The bell rang. I'm done.
I'm pretty.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
tired
I
of
just
being
get tired of
treated this
hearing
way by you.
You know, I told her at the meeting she was an embarrassment to Delaware Village.
No, you told me I made a fool out of myself.
And you did that too. Enough, we're done.
I'm
Okay,
I heard
let's
the
move
bell
on.
ring.
Anyone
It was
else
just
in
in
the
my head.
public wish to address this commission?
Can I do a rebuttal to Van?
Let's
And
ask.
to you? May I stand up and say a few things, Van? You had a question or two. Let me address. Yes, you all are so open with what you're doing. I sat in on a couple of budget meetings, and listened to the unhappiness with stuff being posted on social media, videos of what you all are doing. This meeting that happened a week ago that you all didn't even know about, transparent as dirt. You know, it would be nice. You said nothing about the annex on your stuff, Van, your little blog. Not a thing in the world, and I read it. I like it. It entertains me. But you're not saying anything on it. Greenback had no idea what was going on with the sheriff stuff, nor did anybody else that I spoke to about it. So you all are sitting there talking about how it's transparent. Where are the agendas, you know, on the websites? When you change zoning meetings and screw it up and have to redo it again, that's not transparent either. I don't necessarily agree with everything that Susan says, but if you're gonna attack her, do it in the hallway. Don't sit here and do it during the county commission. And I'm not saying that you all are the dirtiest bunch of politicians I've ever seen. That is not what I'm trying to say or imply. I'm just saying that you're not crystal clear, and you don't need to be acting like it's a great big insult when you get called out about some of it. Now, I had specific ones. You can agree or disagree however you want to. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to sit down now. And if you want to pick a fight with me when I sit down, I'm right here.
Okay. Anyone else from the general public want to address this commission? Step to the podium, state your name, and tell us what's on your mind. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Laura Smith, tell us about zoning changes here.
Good evening. The first one is a resolution to rezone approximately 2.2 acres from A1 Agriculture Forestry District to C1 Rural Center District. This is on tax map 44, parcel 45.13, and it's at the intersection of Highway 321 and Hickory Valley Road in the 3rd Legislative District.
Okay. All right, we'll put this on a public hearing for the 5th.
Yes, it's been advertised for the 5th.
Since it was brought up in public comment time, explain to us, Ms. Smith, why we're having to do this twice. Except this one isn't one of the twice ones, right?
This
This
is
was
not
separate. The next two, but why
But
you're
that's
there?
my fault, that was a mix-up, that was, I was out for a week with grieving, so I did not get this one on the agenda. That was a
No.
miscommunication, these two,
This has nothing to do with what you're talking about. This happened last month.
these two reasons that we're redoing,
Right.
it's because they didn't run for 30 days in the paper.
How did that happen?
Because we had a July 1st meeting scheduled in case we needed it,
But we didn't.
and she was out of town.
Okay. Just wanted that to be, there wasn't no conspiracy of any kind. It was
No,
an
it's
error
not.
in setting up the dates and scheduling the time. There was nobody trying to miss anything, but we had a,
And I noted it in the agenda.
And I noticed, Laura, on the agenda here tonight, they will be re-voted again on the August commission meeting for the 2 in the 3rd district.
Yes, they were re-put in the paper with the August 5th public hearing date.
So we'll do all 3 of them on the 5th public hearing first. Okay? Any questions? Okay, thank you, Laura. Next up is Commissioner Van Shaver.
just to put everybody a little bit of ease, this is not a confrontational issue, this is not a controversial issue, this is the issue that was, to be honest with you, that you brought up on social media. And it comes to my attention, I know other county commissioners' attention. You posted a video that you were moving and selling your old home. So it didn't take long for somebody to do the research to see that you had moved. And into the 5th district, which would be out of the 2nd. You, I think, talked to the chairman about it, talked to the mayor about it, and different ones. The issue is, have you moved out of 2nd district? If so, you have given up your seat. If you haven't, you haven't. But we have certain responsibilities that if you have vacated your position, then we have responsibilities that we have to take on. So it's only relevant that we bring this for a conversation.
I'm gonna just answer your conversation with what the county attorney advised me, is for you all to contact him and for me not to respond to you here.
Why would the county attorney advise you of that?
Ask him.
Well, the next step will be your constituents.
Actually, the next legal step is you speaking to the county attorney, and
No.
I can't have this discussion with you here, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine, you have to discuss it, but you have moved out of the 2nd district.
I can't answer any of your questions, then you'll need to speak to the county
You
attorney.
don't need to, I know you have.
You'll need to speak to the county attorney.
Well, I would say possibly all of us will have to take a vote to declare your seat
You need
vacated
to
and
speak to the
start
county
a
attorney.
120-day process to
You need to
replace you.
speak to the county attorney.
I don't need to speak to the county attorney.
Okay, well, then I'm just gonna stop responding and let you talk.
Do you want to hear your own videos? Would that help any, or?
You're welcome to speak to the county attorney.
I don't know what you did.
Is it a temporary move, or what's the deal, Julia?
Yes, it is a temporary move. And by the state law, it specifically states at any time if my intent is to move back into the district at any time, that intent does not have a time limit. That is all I need to say, and that is what I'm saying. So you'll need to speak to the county attorney, or one of the attorneys in Nashville, or your TCCA representative who has already also been contacted about this and informed about the entire process, as have you, but you wanted to bring it up in public, because that's what you do, and that's fine.
Or we can play your
You're
videos
welcome,
where you
you are
said I
welcome to
moved
contact the county
and I'm
attorney.
selling my
My house
house.
isn't sold. None
But
of my
it
homes.
was going to be a
It's not
halfway
now.
house, but it didn't happen.
It's not sold then.
And
It's not
so,
sold then. It's not sold
but you're not
then.
living there.
It's not sold
Is it
then.
temporary? Have you
This
told the
is- I've already
chairman?
answered this question.
Have you
I've
told
already
the
answered this
chairman when
question.
you're moving
I've
back or
already
any of
answered
that
this question.
effect?
That's not actually required by law. Read the law, man.
You
need to talk
told
to the
Miss
county attorney.
Greer
I didn't tell
that you
Miss
hadn't
Greer.
moved.
Oh, yeah, you did. You lost your mind when I asked you about it.
You did. You told her you hadn't moved.
This is gonna be the last time that I'm gonna repeat this, and this is gonna be the end of this conversation. You're welcome to contact the county attorney.
Who do you think contacted the county attorney to begin with?
You did.
Do you know who gave me the information on this? He did. He was the one that gave us the
And he
TCAs,
said that you needed to
the
contact him.
attorney general opinion, the whole
And he called
9
me yesterday
yards.
and said you need to contact him. So I guess you need to contact him.
I don't, but I think we've established that you have left the
Sorry,
second
Lynn.
district.
You're gonna have to contact the attorney.
Okay. All right.
Tell us about the overcrowding.
All right, pass these around. It would appear, when you look at these numbers, let me get them all out. This is pretty good little information. This all comes from the TDOC website. Everybody got it?
I don't.
Then get Christie one down there. And I've got some extras right here. And this comes straight from the TDOC website. Right now, we're on a path to go broke, addressing our jail and prisoner system. I want to see every bad guy that breaks the law go to jail. I don't like citations, I don't like this. I want to see the bad people that break laws go to jail. So we're building a $17 million addition to add to that. What you've got before you every month, at the end of every month, the last day of every month, every jail in the state has to report to TDOC, Tennessee Department of Corrections, their jail population, based on these numbers, or these titles that's on the top. Now, I have modified them for a little bit easier for you to get my glasses up. Anybody want to So, up on top right there, you start out with waiting to go to the prison not population, that's Loudon County. Waiting to go to prison, and in that category, it's all the convicted felons that are still in the Loudon County Jail that are waiting to be shipped to a Tennessee prison. The next,
How long is their full time?
well, we don't know. It could just be a long time.
Waiting in general through the year, I mean, where are these numbers coming from, this month to month, year to year, quarter to quarter?
This is month,
So
every
this
month,
month, it's 19 people waiting.
at the end of May. June hadn't posted yet. The next call, and we're going to get a lot more detail. Let me get you through all the calls. The felons serving local time. I just had a conversation with the sheriff a few minutes ago, and he doesn't know. He said, why felons are serving time. Our jail is supposed to house misdemeanor convicted criminals. That's who's supposed to be incarcerated in our jail. So he said he would look into that, but that's felons that are being allowed to serve their time in our jail instead of going to state penitentiaries.
So we have 19 waiting to go, but 11 that stay, or does that include
That's-
the 19 waiting to
That's
go?
plus.
Okay.
19 waiting to go and 11 that's getting served their felon time in our jail. The next one is
So we
other
get
felons.
reimbursed for that money?
The very first group, the 19, in that column, we get $35 a day from the state. It's called prisoner board, Tracy Blair. And I'm going to say in the course of a year, it can run $250 to $260 to $275 maybe.
In past years, it has been those.
And so that's a good revenue stream. But if you do the math on 170 inmates, it costs $65 a day to run the jail. So, and I think Tim said tonight they bumped it up to $37.50 a month, and that's what they pay. First column only. Second column, we're taking care of those. Third column, other felons. Tim didn't know what other felons was. I don't know what other felons are, but they're not supposed to be in our jail. Federal and others, we're not even set to house federal, don't know why we have those. They should be in state penitentiary. Convicted misdemeanors. That's who's supposed to be in the Loudon County Jail, is convicted misdemeanors. And you can see by month what that number runs. That's a logical number. The big out-of-kilter one is felons waiting to go to court. The state court meets 3 times a year in Loudon County. Some of these inmates probably are trying not to go to court because the longer they don't go to court, the longer the case isn't adjudicated and they're not sent to Morgan County or whatever. Many of them, I'm sure it's just a flat backlog that they can't get them through in 3 sessions a month, 3 sessions a year. The next column is misdemeanors waiting to go to court.
File for appeal, and then they
Sure.
sit there, because if you don't have money, you
They can't
get
make
it
bond.
out.
That's right.
Like bonds.
So you've got misdemeanors the same way. Now, we've got 2 judges. I have no idea why there would be that many misdemeanors waiting to go to jail. And at the end, last column, you see the
I
total.
thought when we hired the 2 judges,
Clear out.
that was supposed to drop drastically.
I don't know why there's even, but I don't have answers to this. I'm going to propose a question in a minute. The last column is the total inmate for each of those months. Now, if you look on down the page, I did everybody in the 9th Judicial District. That's Loudon County, Roane County, Meigs County, and Morgan County. That's our 9th Judicial District. And I also put the county populations there, and I put the bed counts of each of the jails out on the far end right there.
Well, actually, your population, when they do the new statistics on your population, you're going to find that Loudon County has grown and your population is going to increase.
Well, this is 2017 statistics from the Tennessee Department of TDEC,
Yes.
not TDEC,
Tennessee, correct.
Economic Development Agency. That's where these numbers come from, so that's irrelevant to this. The problem we have, if you look, we have the most waiting to go to court, felons waiting to go to court. I don't know why we have this many, but if you take that out, that's, in many cases, that's half or nearly half of our population in the jail right now. The question I have, what can be done, if anything? I think I would like to hear, I don't have these answers, I'm just showing you information from the State Department of Corrections website. Do we ask the DA to come in? Do we ask the criminal court judge to come in and help let them explain to us why this is? What can we do as a commission? Can we send a harshly worded letter to our legislature to say they need more judges?
Yes, the only thing that we can do in this particular case, that anything that needs to be changed on the side of any of the judges, any of moving through the court system, unfortunately is a state legislative issue. Currently, you're sitting on a freshman legislator, and which got the lieutenant governor. So if you're going to do anything,
Currently, if
I'd
you
start to ask for it now.
If you talk to the district attorney about this too, we are technically in this area at exactly as many judges as we need. We're actually 0.5 over, I believe.
All that's fine, but why are we sitting here with 96 and 91 felons waiting to go to criminal court?
Because during the process of what you said, from booking until sitting there for however many days he's been sitting there without even being in the process, you got the due process section of the Tennessee State Code. It actually takes a book and a half. So for any of that to be changed to process faster or change any of those has to be changed through state law. And then it still has to wait for 12 months after a law's been changed to go into effect. So even if you started today trying to go through speeding up that state law process, it would still be another 24 months from today if something were to be passed at next legislative session, and it has to sit for 12 months to be.
Then I think today's when we start. I would like to ask that with the August workshop, we have at the very least the district attorney,
Russell Johnson.
criminal court judge, and to be honest with you, our 2 local judges, they may have people there that are there who choose not to want to go to court, but with 2 judges, 20, 31, 31 21 and 18 in 5 months' time, it just seems a bit out. But you look right below that at Rome County, what their misdemeanor waiting to go to court list looks like. They're exactly, they've got 2 judges over there, and they've got 100, 113, 108, and so on. So, if all we can do is a harshly worded letter, if we can send a resolution, if we can work with the mayor through the county, whichever group we have to get them working on this, something's gonna have to get relief, or we're gonna find ourselves completely broke just trying to house inmates till they go to court.
And once you find out our population has grown and the county has grown so much, those numbers are going to jump in the next few years also.
And because we're offering a bigger jail system, we'll probably get handed more of these state penitentiary people to house as we go
Because you're
along.
gonna find that we're gonna pass Rome County as far as population.
The first column you have right there is an option. We don't have to have any of those. Those are the ones we get money for, but we don't have to have any of
Which one of
those.
those?
Huh?
Which one?
That's the ones that are waiting to go to prison.
But we're losing money on
Yeah,
We're losing money on,
it
yes.
costs us 37 to
You
65.
also have to,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
you also
we
have
need
to
to
go
look.
back and look and see, because when you say you're losing money on them, you still have to provide health care for those, and you can't charge the state.
State pays $37.50, that's all
And
we're
that's
paying.
it. So if they have a dentist appointment that they have to go, or a medical issue, you have to pay that. So when you're saying $37.50 a day, isn't gonna cover everything.
It's not gonna cover anything, again, just to go back, and population increase, we're gonna get more prisoner increase, we have a bigger jail, we're gonna get more of this coming into our jail as a request from the state. It's not gonna be easy for our sheriff, we look at the sheriff's department in the state of Tennessee, and you just say no, because we're actually housing less than a lot of the counties around us. So it'll take
Because like.
our legislators going through
County is
judicial
requesting.
committee at Nashville, through judicial committee to make the process less.
You can
Being able to change any law through the judiciary is almost like pulling teeth in Nashville. It is one of the most rare law changes that you can get. So I would suggest highly meeting with the DA, meeting with your freshman legislator, meeting with the lieutenant governor, asking what laws have been proposed. I know that Charlie Curtis and I have been working on a few this past year that we didn't even get out of subcommittee to try to move things forward. Meeting with Charlie Curtis at PCCA, making sure that you sit down with the legislative liaison for him, and even the Mayor's Association, who's a former state senator, also was elected with him, sitting down with Mike and saying, okay, hey, we've got a real issue here. What laws can we move forward? Can we get a sponsor and a co-sponsor, and can we start working on these to lobby this now before next session, because it starts in February?
But we already request not to take state prisoners too, so that's why our numbers are lower when Rome County, actually ask for state prisoners.
That column can be 0.
Well, I mean,
No, we have
to start
requested
at-
not to take state prisoners.
Well, we have to start at home. Waiting to go to prison is 19, felonies 11, and others are 4, that's 34.
Just waiting to go to
That's in
court
writing.
is 91 people. I mean, if that one shot, if we took 91 people.
You don't
off
need the
of
jail
this-
edition.
Right, that's what I'm saying, right, exactly, we don't need the beds, we have 91 beds,
We don't need
91 out of
24 more
waiting to
new
court.
jailers. I
We'd be
mean,
done. Exactly.
again, and it's getting worse. If you go back, this is online, you can go look at it, and you can go back years and years and years. And it was, a year ago, we were running 30, 40, and 50 of felons waiting to go to court. And now over the last 2 months, it's been 96 and 91. The trend is not going down. Something has to change. If the state of Tennessee wants to give us a little chunk of money to help offset this, so be it. But we can't keep, in every county, in every city, we can't keep being the jail for the state of Tennessee and picking up the cost for it.
You're forgetting about bond. They're not bonding out because the bonds are set ridiculously high.
I can't fix that. That's
I
why
know.
that's why I want to have these people here
And
to
you
explain
have
to
the
us
judges
why all
in.
these things are happening.
So you have to have the judges in and see what the judges are saying too.
I agree. Mike
Because- And
Pemberton
there's also,
is hearing some of the criminal cases now to try to take some of the heat off
I just talked to Mike
of,
Pemberton the other day.
Wicks.
He said he's trying to pick up more cases and take them off so that we can run them through a little bit faster.
Well,
Commissioner Shaver, here's what I'll do. The August 19th workshop, which is the next workshop that we will have,
right.
I will see if we can't get Russell Johnson and one of the judges to come and explain to us why this is important. happening and what we can do to resolve the
That's
issue.
the big question. How do we fix this?
How do we fix it?
And I would also like to, I would also like to request that we look at,
Hold on, let Kelly speak.
I also would like to request that we have the sheriff come too, simply because I would like to find out, we do have, and there's some legislation going through about the ankle bracelets and things like that, of getting, those on prisoners, or those on or not felons, but, those that commit crimes. And it's my understanding that that's a decision that the judges and the sheriff has to agree on.
If you'll remember in 2014 or 15, we had the company that came here and talked to us about it.
the ankle
And
bracelet.
Goddard
But
didn't want to do it.
that's why, because there is legislation going through and has gone through, and there is reimbursement for using those ankle bracelets.
Well, I'm not for letting anybody go. I want everybody to serve their time, but we can't keep going down this track. We're gonna be in a mess.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a
Go
couple
ahead.
of questions? One of them is the first column, that's just using the figures that Commissioner Shaver has given to us, waiting to go to prison. Is that because we have no room for them to go to prison, or we're waiting on that's one question. Second question has to do with the two columns, felons waiting to go to court and misdemeanors waiting to go to court. Does that tell me that these two columns, that the judges can't do this, they're overcrowded so much that they can't do this, and whose fault is it that they're waiting to go to court?
That's why we want to ask. I don't know the answer to it. That's why we want them to come and tell us.
We went ahead.
Well, what's the obvious answer?
The obvious answer is they're in jail, can't make bail, and on the big court side is the fact that they're only here 3 times a year. They can't get them all heard in that length of time.
Okay.
That's a pure speculation on my part. I try to stay out of the judicial system myself.
What I will do is call these people and see if they will join us on the 19th.
And make sure they know this is not hostile, it's not, we're not accusing, we need to understand what's happening, and they need to understand the effect it's having on local government.
Can you put the sheriff on that
I
list?
didn't, I just put them down.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask Russell Johnson, bring over Mike Pemberton, I would ask Rex Dale to come.
Wicks is more than Pemberton, Wicks is criminal court, right?
Wicks.
Yes, but Pemberton, I'm sure.
Well, that's fine, yeah, but Wicks is who's actually the judge.
I'll give one of them to come.
I'll bet you they would love to have that.
I'm sure they would.
Well, that's what
And at
Mr.
37
Cullen,
gave them.
Mr. Cullen, get the Assistant Attorney General that works at the Loudon General Sessions to come too.
Anyhow,
She's
that's
the one
what
there.
this was about right here. The trend is bad for Loudon County. It's bad in other counties, but we're the worst. So,
At $37.50 a day and it's costing us $65, that is not a good business.
no, that's not a good model.
Okay.
But these figures tell you that the reason that you have all this backlog, and even after county commission, let them have another
The judge,
and you still got this that didn't help. So we could we move a judge in there and let one do it?
I think one's doing it now.
once they're there, I think you've got the two of
We're pretty well locked into that. This is your local ones right here, the misdemeanors, that's all your local.
them. That's the only ones you can do.
That's Rex and Hank's job. They can't even hear a felon case.
No.
All right, Mr. Chairman, that's
Okay,
all.
thank you. Commissioner Waller, tell us about PUDs.
Where do you start? I know back in 2017, I believe, they were dropping acre to 2.5, which is where we are, that's based on the entire land size.
More left this.
She did, unfortunately. When you read the first sentence about our planned unit development regulations, it says, encourage the total planning on a relatively large tract of land, consistent with the long range general yada, yada, yada. Based on this, it says a relatively large tract of land is 5 acres for residential. I don't know if that's what we want or not.
What all can be allowed within a PUD? What's required within a PUD on 5 acres? Open space, recreational, commercial, and residential.
Yeah.
How much of that can you squeeze into 5 acres?
acres.
There's not who your engineer is.
Yeah. It better be a good one.
Called Richard LeMay. So, I mean, and that's another point. Like, they put in, well, let's talk about the place we just approved over there on East LoCo Parkway. How many acres? 20 acres?
20 acres.
They could technically put a McDonald's over there, and we couldn't stop them because of our PUD regulations. People are using PUDs, just, I mean, granted, 2 per acre is what we have, and developers are using PUDs to try to get denser development. It's gotta come back and bite us one day, because like I said, next to my parents' were on Bill's Chapel, somebody could put in a convenience store on a PUD.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta be really careful what we're doing. That's one of the,
The people that are gonna invest money in development are gonna do it based on how many houses that they can sell.
yeah.
And so it's, that's why they, they're not gonna say, they're not gonna be, well, let's do the right thing, or let's get ready and not put as many houses as you can. Every developer is gonna squeeze in as many houses as the county regulations will allow.
That's how they make their money.
But we're supposed to minimize such influences as land incompatibilities, heavy traffic congestion, excessive demand on land, and existing public facilities. So that has to be taken into consideration as well.
How do we fix it? What's your plan?
What do
You
you
got a
want to do?
proposal, what do you want us to do here?
Nothing. I'm just talking about. I mean, we're working on our zoning stuff.
I understand.
We'll wrap up soon. I'll have some.
But in the meantime, we're gonna get hit every month with somebody else wanting to PUD. We need to up the 5 acre minimum by any stretch of the
I agree
imagination.
with that.
I agree with that. So, I mean, what's the number?
What's the number?
What's the magic?
I like sitting at 1,000 acres, I know that's a little much.
That's way much. So what is a large tract of land?
50, 75, 20, 25?
I'd say 25 would be considered large tract for selling purposes.
Well, again, you think about what all your required or allowed to have in PUD. And you've got it somewhere, right, you've got commercial, residential.
You can have commercial or residential.
It's all can be that, but that's the goal of a planned unit.
Well, that's a North Shore Town Center, it's a Telephone Village,
Sure it
it's an Avalon.
Yeah,
But
it's
when
not
you go
7 acres up there on the side of Highway 11 that they're digging that dirt and flooding everything down the valley.
Yeah,
But it could be if they wanted it to be a strip zone, kind of like that little one that
Well,
has
now-
a
now-
Star House City.
you're
You
limited
couldn't
how much
do
commercial
that
you can
without
have. You can
residential.
have, no commercial piece can be more than 3,000 square feet, and it cannot be more than 5% of the total area of the homes. So you're limited in that respect, but still,
I like commercial development.
I mean, it's just right.
But it won't be on 7 acres.
No.
So that's
We
the
could-
problem.
You can limit the size of the amount of
The
acres.
density, or what?
Yeah, like what we consider an appropriate amount of land you ask for a PUD for.
So right now, a PUD is allowed in R1, well, like A2, R1, C1, and C2.
And do we have?
And there's no minimum.
The minimum,
5 acres?
the minimum acres for R1 is 5 acres, and the minimum acre for A2, C1, and C2 is 8 acres.
We also, though, even though we have PUDs, we can still limit, we can grant a PUD with a limit on how many houses they can build.
Just because someone comes and asks for a PUD does not mean they're entitled, this is from Bob Bone's office, to the 2.5 per acre. You can go in there and change it, how many units you want.
We
You
can
can
behind
also
the
put
table.
townhouses and build up, so you can actually fit 8 per piece.
But that counts as 8 though.
Right,
That's,
but I mean, you can, that's
you
what I'm saying.
get
So
2
if
and a
you-
half.
I know, but if you limit it to 2.5, you're gonna limit some productivity.
So how much acreage is on the planning commission agenda for Ron? How much acreage is on that piece on Highway 70?
7.
So that's,
No, I'm sorry, I thought she was Highway 11.
Highway 70, sorry.
4 point something.
Is that it? I thought it was, Okay.
At 2.5, he can have 11.75 units.
Right, and he's asking.
He's asking for 18.
I don't know how the heck that's in front of the PCA.
I don't either, but it should put it on the agenda regardless.
So, I mean, we just gotta figure out what we want to consider as a large tract of land.
Let me take it down another path, and Bill and I talked about this, it came into real good clarity on his East Coast Parkway. I'll be honest, when we went 2.5 per acre and prior to that, my assumption always been that it was buildable acreage. That when you had a PUD, you reduced it by the street acreage out, the open space, the recreation, whatever else. All of those numbers were deducted. Let's say on his 20-acre one over there, they had 5 acres of other stuff. Well, they have 15 acres of buildable land left, and that would be 2.5 units per 15 acres. Not 2.5 units per 20 acres, even though you've taken 5 acres of it out for other uses. That seems to me to make more sense than anything. Why would we not want to explore that avenue?
That's the same as 2 per acre essentially. I mean,
What is the purpose in just limiting it to the size of a piece of land?
what do you,
So, basically, the concern is, somebody applies for a PUD, they can say that it's one thing, as long as they have that PUD overlay, they can turn it into basically whatever.
they could act commercial where it
Right.
shouldn't be, yes.
So why, instead of changing the acreage size, do we not change the requirements of the development? So for example, hey, look at me, I've got 5 acres, here's my plan, and Laura says, what you on? Laura says, yes, that's great, and we approve it, but we make a new stipulation that says, if you make any changes to this at all, you have to come back to the whole
We don't ever
process
see
again.
plans, we only put the
Why
zoning.
can't we make it a requirement that we do? Instead of limiting the size of the land, why don't we limit it to the plan, to approve the plan? And if at any time the plan is changed again, it has to come back and forth.
There's an enormous amount of that will happen.
Yeah.
Then I guess,
Or any major changes instead of saying 2.5
I think
acre
you want to
commercial.
refine it down a little bit, because then we're really taking the place of the planning commission is what we're doing.
I'm just gonna ask, is this best served here or in Laura's office?
Some of those things, I mean, that's what the planning commission sets there every tomorrow night, every month, and they go through these site plans and the whole 9 yards. We have established the rules and regulations, and then they make sure those rules and regulations are implemented and enforced. That's how it should work. So my problem is more what our rules and regulations are than the enforcement or the changes or anything like that. I don't know the answer. All I know is PUDs are a disaster. They are never what people say they're going to be.
Not all the time. Not
All the time.
No, Avalon is a PUD, Tellico Village is a PUD, North Shore Townsend is a PUD. So I think in the
Well, that's
appropriate
fair.
setting,
Fair.
that's,
That's
you know,
But we have, most of the time, it's being abused. All it does is allow you to violate the zoning regulations in the zone you're in.
absolutely.
That's essentially, we're giving you permission to violate the current zoning regulations because of something special.
What is the purpose of PUD? That's a simple question.
Very good.
What's the purpose of it?
The intended purpose of a PUD is to encourage the total planting of a relatively large tract of land consistent with the long-range general comprehensive plan of the county, encourage innovations in the design and the applications of sound design principle.
There it is.
There you go, it keeps
Okay,
going.
So,
Don't-
we give a PUD to somebody, what do we lose by sitting here and granting PUDs?
They try to. Density, but.
Overuse out in areas that it don't need to be in. If you've got, first thing you gotta have sewer to have a PUD. Well, up in mine and your district, on the 5th district, 70 and 11, and up in his district, up in Martell and Bill's Chapel, unfortunately, have run sewer. So we get hit with these PUDs for denser development. Denser development brings more children. More children go to the school system. The school system is overtaxed for students. It's all about how it impacts our local.
That's your view of it?
That's definitely a piece of it, yeah.
That's,
But again, going back to, it says a relatively large tract of land, and then over time it's been whittled down to 5 acres, and that's not a relatively
Well,
large
what was
tract
it
of
before
land.
you said over time? What did
I
it start
don't
out
have
at?
a clue. I don't have a clue.
I don't know what it's being.
If you asked me before here and after you said how much land you need to have a PUD, I would have said substantially more than 5 acres.
I would say 25, because you have 25 acres, and you tear it down. If you do it right, you put your sidewalk,
Unless
your
you're building,
temporary, and
you
your
know, unless you.
retention pond, and you put your amenities in, you're now down to 17 buildable acres.
Well, that's another problem, so,
Every 25 acres, you can have 17 buildable.
But right now, it's on acreage total, there's no buildable acreage. HUD's
so let's
based
talk,
on
let's
whole
talk about
acreage.
your family farm. How many acres is your family farm?
For practical purposes, 200.
200 acres. How many of those acres are above the floodplain and can be built on?
I'd say 110 acres.
So really, at 200 acres,
Half of it's gonna be unbuildable.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
That's right,
So
that's
you can
right.
put 500 homes,
That's right.
but then if you put that on 110 acres,
It's even
that's
less than that.
4.5 per acre.
It's less than that.
Well, right, you're right, because you have the roads and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So can you change the wording to buildable?
but then all that does is cut down on the density and at the end
Well,
of the
that's a
day.
start.
Number of units.
That's a start.
And you may say,
25 acres and buildable.
Minimum acreage 25 for a PUD, and the calculated acreage is the acreage is be calculated for buildable acre.
but when I say buildable acres, this we can disagree. I would count 90 acres on your farm not buildable. 110 acres is buildable.
Correct.
So it'd be the 110 times 2.5.
I agree.
You wouldn't take the roads and stuff into account.
I take everything.
I know you would, but I understand what you said.
Settling ponds, commercial, the
But then the land
playground.
would be worthless to a builder or a developer or anybody buying it or selling it for real estate purposes. I mean, it would be, you
Well, I'm
would
going-
sell the 200 and you would get a profit.
I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all just another little bad news part of this. We tried this back in 2004 or 5, I don't remember. We were going up to 75 acres, and people came out of the woodwork.
Well, can we just make it not,
How-
I mean, 75 is a pretty stark
Well,
contrast to 5.
It didn't matter what it was. Let me tell you the argument. Commissioner Duff was here, and my good lady friend Chuck Jenkins, and we got beat to death over this. What we did by putting any set amount on it is you devalued one fella's property. The rich people's got it made because they got the big tracts of land. The poor people's just got 5 acres. So you hurt them because now their land's not worth so much because they can't get a PUD. It's an argument, but I still disagree. If you're gonna call it a PUD, 5 acres is not a PUD. A 20, a 25 acre where you can do what your definition you read was.
Yeah.
It's you're gonna really make this thing a land community? You can't do that in 5 acres.
Well, and up there across from, up on Highway 11, where they
Yeah.
put in next, was it Garrison, whatever, next to it?
Rented, yeah, that's the guy come and told us how ignorant we
So how
are.
many acres is that?
7.
So what open space and what amenities are they putting in there for the people?
The only open space he's got is a little piece of a lot on the very back side. He's not building anything.
And no one knows what's gonna be, so that's one of the requirements of the PUD. So a lot of things are getting past the planning commission, because we don't have requirements.
Well, I wouldn't sit and beat it to death or not beat it to death. If they want to come back and argue, 75 is too much, 5's too little, pick a number.
The issue comes down, how do we resolve this tonight? What do we
Well,
have to do, if anything?
If we're gonna take a vote of any kind in August, it would be whatever, this is Adam's thing, if he wants to put on the floor to say, ours is a recommendation to the planning commission, remember that, we can't make it happen, we have to recommend to them, then they have to recommend back to us. So at the very least, I think his conversation tonight is a recommendation to up the minimum acreage from 5 to whatever. Whether or not we wanna do the recommendation to them to exclude non-buildable area.
I don't. Non-buildable,
This is your bailiwick. You're the one who will bring it forward in August, special plan.
where's what I'm sitting here talking about?
With the PUD, it's what, 2.5?
2.5, yeah.
Overall, total acreage.
Why don't we send them a recommendation and then they send us a
That's the
recommendation
law.
back? Not as a court, but as
Whether
a
you
citizen.
build on it or not.
Confused.
That's a law.
That's how it
From
works.
Tennessee,
Tennessee code. So that's that.
just curious,
What?
just curious.
So if we put a PUD on your 200 acres, you can only build on 100 of it.
You wanna make-
They still get the same number of houses as if it was a 200 acres.
Crazy, man.
Adam, do you want to make a recommendation for August 5th?
The small.
No, I don't, not at this point. No, I just want to discuss it.
You're not allowed to discuss this.
And we have all our regulations for Loudon County on feds. Can you email them to me to submit some comments?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further
So what are you
discussion?
gonna do? You gonna bring anything?
No, we're just talking about this.
Okay.
Man, there'll be 8 more PUDs coming in now between now and August.
more coming.
Yeah.
No, well, no, we won't see her. That's one thing.
That one that you said was a good. good idea.
Any further discussion, Adam?
No, no.
Okay.
This one.
Well, that was enough.
Well, I don't know, and I didn't know what you were trying to do.
Right now, we got
I'll tell you right now.
and then
That is the way I'm on.
Yeah.
I've got the
That's it.
whatever Tracy.
Yeah, that's really.
Well, I guess, have y'all gone over the
What
At
is
some point, you just have to figure, if you're gonna read something, whether everybody likes it or not, just say it's.
What is it?
It's reading the box.
Oh, I have it right here. I have it right here.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, Kelly Loudon, Commissioner Brewster, you're gonna give us an update on the Loudon City Council meeting about the riverfront property.
Yes, and while we're on it, I'm also going to give you an update on the old, I hate calling it the old courthouse. Our courthouse.
That's
It's
a good
historic.
name, the old courthouse.
But I'm gonna give you an update on both. So I'm gonna give you an update on the city. As you know, at county commission, you asked the mayor to move ahead, how do we need to move ahead about the riverfront property? And one of those was to go before the city and ask them where they are at, what they want to do. So, with the mayor being out of town, he asked me if I would go, and I said I would. So I went. Sure, thank you, Adam. I went, and they are very receptive. There is no disagreement or anything about the property. They asked exactly what we needed in order to move forward, and I told them, well, we need to know what you all would like to do, and we need some kind of letter of agreement. So, that is exactly what you should have, the memoranda of understanding. If anybody doesn't have it, I have another copy. I made copies.
Waste of tree.
I think everybody else has a copy. Made a copy.
Thank you.
I made a copy. Isn't that
Jeremy's running over here to get one right now.
nice? It'll cost you $1.
$1.50 now. They went up $1.50.
$1 here. But, there was some discussion as to whether just to sign over a deed to us or to do a 99-year lease. And so they decided for right now they would do a letter of understanding to us, so that if there was any desire to go ahead and do core samplings, because it might be that we go and do a core sampling on the property and the property be not able to build on. So they went ahead and decided to go ahead and do a letter of understanding, and then they would put something together. Okay, question now.
I talked to Rick Dover, who had the land before.
Oh, I already talked to him.
Okay.
Okay. He built the property up, he did everything and had it ready, so it should be good to go. Is that what you got from him?
Absolutely.
See?
But I had heard on other points that there was a large portion of the old chair factory still running and all that. Not from Rick Dover, I didn't hear that.
Well, the intention on the property was when Rick Dover had it, was to go ahead and build on it, and the city had sold him the property, and I'm not sure if it was $1,500 or $1,700, don't quote me on that, but they sold him the property with the understanding that he would build in so many months, or so many years, I think it was, and that's when the economy bottomed out. He ended up not building on it. But he had already gone ahead and prepped the property, built it up, put some dirt in there, did everything ready to build, and then couldn't. Just, and also at the condos above where I live, purchase price of $1, and they do want the adjacent parking lot between, or the adjacent property between the city, police department, and where we're gonna build the courthouse to be paved. That is all that they are asking for, is parking access to be paved right in that area.
What about the part that's over on parcel 28?
No, they do not want parcel 28 touched at all.
So the
And
last
I-
picture down there, currently the rendering that they sent us with this right here, with this memorandum of understanding, the rendering they sent us shows parking lot on part of parcel 28, isn't that correct? And instead of going over
This is
28,
parcel 28.
That parking lot includes part of 28.
I think the parking lot in the rendering is in
The
part of
parking
28.
lot that the city wants is right here.
There instead of on 28.
But listen, to the right of the courthouse in that picture is on 28, that parking lot. To the right of the courthouse in that picture.
Well,
Okay, you got that rendering? The one they sent out with that letter right there,
That's
where our parking lot is on part of 28.
You see that parking lot to your left, like right there?
right here?
No, left, the parking lot.
Oh, right
No.
here.
No,
The
to
park.
the right of the annex.
Right here, pointed out.
That's on 28, that's on lot 28.
This rendering doesn't show parcels. Right now, on what they sent us, parcel line will be kind of right down through the middle. So part of this parking lot is on parcel 28. Instead of building any parking lot on 28, we'll do the parking over here and do whatever we can on this as long as we stay on parcel 29.
Exactly.
Now, is that the gated security parking for police vehicles that the city wants?
I don't think so. It's just gonna be a mutual parking space between us and them, and both sides can use it.
And where's the Sally Port supposed to be?
Down the back side of the new building,
They're
down next to
parking
the
on the
river.
back side, over on this side.
How many
And
parking
they don't-
spaces?
They don't have all of
Yeah.
that, none of that has been detailed out. They just know a Sally Port is what is gonna be needed. That there's going to be parking that is needed. That was part of the discussion at the meeting too. They just know exactly, we're trying to get an idea of what is going to be needed in.
My point is it's supposed to be a jewel and a beautiful addition to our town, and what it's gonna wind up looking like is a scaled-down version of Scrubby Mountain.
It is, I did find out your question, you asked me about needing a fence or a gate, because if they had this, and the answer was no, because this is not a jail, like is up there, that this is going to be, so they don't have that over at Loudon County either, at their.
And they can drag them in the back of the original courthouse too, they don't need a Sally Port.
Hey, hang on, look here. While you're on that topic, let's go ahead and jump one. For good or for bad, one of the proposals at the budget committee meeting tonight was $30,000 to MBI to start the rendering process, to start drawing up things. The budget committee unanimously voted no, because we don't want to spend any money short of and only core samples until we have ownership of the land. So going back to all this part of it, we're not gonna know any of the interior layout, the drawings, the renderings, or anything until we start giving money to MBI. The budget committee voted not to do any money to MBI until we take ownership of the land. The memorandum of understanding is fine for a core drill, but we can't spend money on a memorandum of understanding.
Exactly. They will, I mean, for the core drill, it will be fine.
That'll work.
Okay, and then they're in the process of putting what together, their deed or their
And the sooner the better.
or
Now,
their lease agreement.
I had two parts of this thing that I had questions about, not objections, just questions. And it was third paragraph.
Wait just 1 second. Yes.
I'm not done. Part of the reason that we couldn't use the old courthouse was that there had to be a Sally Port. Now, you're telling me we don't have to have one on that, so we don't have to have one on the old courthouse either.
No. I'm saying we're gonna have a Sally Port on there. You're not going to
Fence.
need a gated fence like, you know, that you had talked
Then what do you
about.
call a Sally Port?
You're not gonna need the fence like that you had
It's
described.
kind of like a
being
garage,
like
raises
it's
up, you drive in, the garage does.
with the wire around it. They are not gonna need that. It would be a Sally Port that they would come in and drive in like a garage
That's right.
and close off. Does that make sense?
Okay, Kelly, continue on.
My question to Kelly, on my two parts right here, Kelly, are the third paragraph. Whereas the city desires for the courthouse square to return substantially to the same condition as prior to the fire, and that the historic courthouse be utilized as a museum, archive, and/or be available for venue-style event center and for any other public or civic purposes. Right now, today, when we're talking about building this thing and put the courthouse back together, that's a good plan, and that's what I hope we do, the upstairs being an open venue. I would like to think we might even at some point, hopefully it'll be a whole lot less money, let's put the EDA in the offices, let them be in charge of the schedule and that sort of stuff. But down the road, a year, 2, 5, 10, 20 from now, the county should have the option, if we need to move offices back in there, we need to go and subdivide the upstairs part, we need to add 2 more, or another court, whatever. Does this bind us forever and eternity that it can only be a museum, archive, and/or available for venue-style events? I mean,
That's specific.
Well,
that's very, and if you read on down there.
Also, if you look at this, you just said that too, this is not gonna be their deed or anything, this is only to do the core sample.
Well,
But it lays the groundwork.
this will be in the deed, I'll assure you, this same part. That language is a problem.
Well, then we will be glad, I mean, they're
They'll
willing
have
to
to
work
come
with
back.
us, and so we'll be glad to.
Suggest, recommend, hopefully it can be, but for it to be a demanded requirement for all eternity, who knows what could happen? The new building could burn down and we need to move in on the courthouse.
The thing that they had relayed to me was they wanted it to be aesthetically appealing along with where their police department is. So maybe that wording got mixed up with this.
And
I will.
I'm fine with all that, but having us stuck perpetually with what it has to have in it in order for this, because it says the parties agree to proceed in good faith for the execution because of what we're doing up here. My other part was, the city will be informed of all design, planning, and construction activities.
They would just like to be a participant and like the aesthetic appeal of it, and they would like to be involved in it also.
Man, the city of
Involves
Loudon,
a kind of a vague term.
well, the city of Loudon has got a $1 million grant, and they're gonna be doing walkways and other things, and I have talked to Mr. Ross about this. And
Yes.
what they want to do is just be able to look at the layout and make sure when they pre-plan and do the walkway and everything, that it all ties in together. That's what they're saying.
Well, right there is what the intent right now is, the layout, we've all talked about the actual exterior color, whether or not it'll match the red brick of the police department. I think we all love that lighter color when it come in here. That's all fine and good, but inside and interior and what the court layouts and all that's gonna be, I don't think Loudon even care, do they?
Yeah.
Parking and to make sure that.
I think their concern is more, the aesthetic appeal, and also what Dave's talking about is the fact that they are going to have a walkway that is connecting. And
That
there's
shouldn't
gonna
be a
a walk
problem.
there, and because of the fact that they have asked that we pave the parking lot between.
I'm not hung up on the parking lot for a piece of property. I think we can mutually work on the parking lot. But this is, we essentially know where it's at. Here's lot, or parcel 29, here's where it's gonna set on the parking lot. Here's what the building's gonna set, here's where the parking lot's gonna be. That's it.
It's 1.59 acres enough.
Oh, yeah.
I think the folks in the city though, as far as reference back to the old courthouse, their concern is that it not just be restored and sit there. That it be.
Well, I'm gonna give an update on that.
I mean, I know we're gonna get that, but, you know, as far as what it needs to be used.
Yeah.
And our concern is, if it's an open venue, and then, like I said, 10 years down the road, it may be, we need that open venue for, whatever.
Another courtroom.
And I look at this too, that I don't have any problem with the city being in on some of what is taking place there, because, city folks pay county taxes too.
Well, I know
back in the old courthouse, tell them, Bill,
Yeah.
save $7 million.
What a good idea.
Won't save.
Commissioner Brewster, would you carry back the concerns just on the memorandum of understanding to the city?
I will gladly carry back those concerns.
Thank
Okay.
you, Kelly.
I also want to give an update on, I talked to Susan Husky, and I plan on from here on out, every time I have a meeting with Susan Husky, is try to give an update on our historic courthouse, so that everyone will kind of have an idea of what is taking place. They, Susan Husky, they have hired the architect. They are right now with the architect reviewing RFQ qualifications for a construction manager at risk. Now, this is different. A construction manager for at risk is to go in, the architect can go in and tell what needs to be done, how it needs to go back, and things like that. But the construction manager at risk, his job is to go in and look and get with the architect and say what is stabilized and what needs to be stabilized, and look at the things on the inside that the architect cannot do.
Insurance paying for all of that.
That's the insurance.
Yes, the
Okay.
insurance is doing all of that, okay? And he will help determine what actually needs to be done in stabilizing of the walls and what walls are not stabilized well and things like that. Now, the state requires that we do have an architect on board. They don't require the construction manager, but the architect that's doing this is a historical architect. And he recommends the construction manager because there was so much damage done to the courthouse, and it is.
As long as the insurance foot the bill.
It's falling under the insurance, yes. And they should have that construction manager selected by the end of this week. So I think that's a good update. And then
Where's that
start
construction
moving
manager? He don't
Are
allow.
they gonna have to put it back exactly the way it was?
That is-
Substantially the same.
That's why the construction manager will go on the inside too and say what is
I thought you
weak.
had said that, I was just making sure,
Yes.
according, to keep it historical, it's gotta go same floor plans.
Yes, and he will be able to determine what is weak and what is not weak.
And we have in writing from insurance, they're paying for everything to restore the old courthouse.
I've never seen nothing to that effect.
That's my.
I've heard verbally over and over and over. I've yet to see a document that says insurance is paying a dime on anything.
So where are we on that? I know you.
Well, actually, I do know that Susan Husky had told me, and I don't have the figures in front of me right now, but she did tell me that the insurance company had sent 2 different checks in to go ahead and move forward with getting the architect and getting the construction manager. So, I don't have those figures in front of me. I might, let me.
I've heard it at 10 different meetings. I've heard everybody say, you better start out $2 million max.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, they're gonna pay 100% of everything. Then it's this, that. I have yet to see a document that says to me, the insurance is gonna put that courthouse back to like it was. I've not seen that document.
That's the word floating around.
That's what the mayor and Susan, different ones have told us.
It's not appeared in black and
No, I like to see something written down that I can go back and say, see, right here where it said that.
Like an
Well,
insurance
I will be
policy.
glad to take that concern back to Susan Husky,
There
and
you go.
I will do that. How's that?
You do that.
And I will give another update. And
How about giving us an update? I hate to do this, but Pat Hunter brought up the word awkward. I hate to do this. My gosh, if somebody tells me that we're fixing to have to spend 10 more cents at
Okay.
Poplar Springs, I'm gonna jump through that window.
Time,
If Pat
and
Hunter brings that up, I'm gonna.
I hate to tell you this, but I was doing my deed as in helping in Bible school at Mount Zion Church, and I did not attend. But Larry Jameson is here, and he attended, and so did Miss Hunter attend. So I'm gonna leave it up to Larry Jameson and Miss Hunter to give us a good update on Poplar Springs. I can give you the amount of money we do have, because you know I can't go.
I would rather you tell us how much we've spent at Poplar Springs since 2015.
All of our minutes.
Oh, 400 plus $1,000.
Almost.
Yeah, 400,000.
Like Pat said, there's about $60,000 still left in the account.
And so they're gonna get that.
It's looking that way, so
Unbelievable.
some research is being done, right now, and I think, Chairman is going back to the mayor.
Did the new work we just spent our money on blow out or run off or wash away? What's the problem?
I think it went to the bottom of the hill.
How about that? How about that?
That's
Then
speculation.
that contract needs to be held
Speculation
accountable, because I told them the day they got done, that's not gonna sit on this hill.
Speculation only because I have not been out there and visually looked at it myself.
$450,000 we're gonna have in that little project thrown away, absolutely thrown away, and the man told us we didn't have to spend a dime on it.
There is some,
And who told you that it would end up costing, and who's kept up with all the money and tried to save?
there is some questions being asked. Is this under warranty or warranty work?
It's not a year old.
That's where they're headed.
Yes.
So
it goes back on the
contract.
What is Poplar Springs, this point of information?
That was a former landfill that was closed in the late 90s and walked away. TDOT said, it's good, you covered it up, it's finished, it's over, old school, no lining, no nothing. Fast forward 25 years, and all of a sudden, just out of the clear blue, somebody says, oh, it's leaking over the old landfill, the county's got to do something about it. We had $1 million, no, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars spent with legal teams that said, no, you don't. We don't have to take responsibility, but we as good neighbors did, and we have now spent over $400,000 on repairing damaged old landfill that we had no responsibility for, on private property, no less. It's on private property.
And the money that we spent was set aside.
It was
from
not.
what
It was not set aside for Poplar Springs. It was
It
left
was money
over from
that-
Poplar Springs that went to Matlock Bend, and Tracy pulled it out when this whole
It's
scam started.
money we had, though, it is not money that we have spent.
Well,
We pulled out
all
of
the
this
money we had
budget.
is money we had. I mean,
It is money from years ago that was
that was
set.
supposed to be going for the closure and post-closure of Matlock Bend landfill. That's now gone.
No. It
Exactly.
was not to go.
Yes, it
It
was.
was not
Tracy
to go.
Blair, clear
It
this one
was
up.
to go
You're wrong.
for maintenance and work at Matlock Bend, not for
You're wrong.
post-closure. No,
You're
I'm
wrong.
not.
It was collected into the general fund of Matlock Bend landfill to be used for whatever they wanted to use it for.
But not post-closure. You said for whatever they needed to, not just
And what do
post-closure.
they need?
It's not post-closure.
Post-closure. Hell, they've never done that.
All right, slow down.
Sorry.
Poplar Springs. Make a note somewhere, Poplar Springs.
Well, you'll see
And
it.
who
What was my statement? What kind of mistake was it? Of biblical proportions. Just
I
get ready.
remember it well.
But most of the money went for attorneys.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
didn't go for public.
No, Kelly could probably tell you to the letter how much was attorneys and how much was,
I know.
the work was 160,000 total when we did it all, so maybe not even that.
Actually,
Legal fees.
If it's the same spot, I would assume that the contractor and the engineer is gonna own it.
You know what they say about assume, don't you?
I know, I've been through it
That
a million
contractor,
times.
if you'd have seen the work that was done over there, I drove up on that, and I said, you have got to be kidding me. This is what we spent that money on. And you knew the first big rain coming, it's all going down the pond. Larry seen it,
They actually had standing grass
Oh,
growing, but it
yeah.
wasn't gonna hold it.
and the root was that deep, and the dirt spread was that deep.
I'm just saying they had a standing grass.
Poplar Springs, the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, boy.
Tracy, tell us about the budget amendment.
Please do.
But that was my update, less, talking.
Thanks, Pat. If you just hadn't said nothing, we wouldn't have talked about that tonight, I could sleep after night there.
Randy caged in, Pat.
That was kinda loud, wasn't it?
It's called school teacher, gotta get loud to get over him.
Well, he raises his hand like a kid, isn't he? All right.
Moving along.
Come on, Tracy.
Budget committee,
Oh,
had a discussion with Sheriff Guider, and Sheriff Geiger's request was for an amendment in job classification of employees. You will recall that on the night of budget adoption, Commission ended up approving a total of 30 new employees between jail and sheriff. There was 6 in the sheriff's department and 24 corrections officers.
They just had to have, right?
Yes.
Yes.
15
The
in the
24, I'm sorry, in the sheriff's department, there were 3 patrol deputies, 2 SROs, 1 court officer, but their wages, their annual wages of all 3 are the same. So what the sheriff, his request was, out of the 6, to make one of them a patrol sergeant, which of course that's a higher rank. So wages would be higher, about $8,000 higher, $9,500 with fixed charges. And in the jail, instead of 24 corrections officers, the additional officers, his request was to have 3 corrections sergeants and 21 corrections officers. So the total number of employees would be the same, but the rank of 4 of those employees would be higher, which would have increased the total expense to the county about $23,000 between the increases in wages and fixed charges. So during the discussion with the budget committee, the sheriff agreed to reduce total employees by 1, total new employees by 1. So instead of 24 corrections officers, he agreed to 23 corrections officers, and taking the money that was budgeted for that 1.
You thought he had to have those employees.
Well, this is what the agreement was in the budget committee. Utilizing the wages and equipment and everything for that 1 corrections officer to provide the additional funding needed for the increase in wages for the
And let's make it clear,
sergeants.
none of these are raises, these are all job classification
They're
changes.
job classification changes,
Well, the
yes.
original request where he had those massive raises, those were just flat out raises for existing people. These are 4 total job classification changes, 3 in the jail and 1 in the sheriff's department.
Exactly.
I asked that question at our meeting because I knew that there was going to be some moving around, and they would try to start cutting employees to cover it.
And that's why I say, why don't we just wait and hire some of the jailers when they need them versus give them all this money up front?
So we didn't give it.
And did you finish there? or-
Not quite finished,
Sorry.
because, that's okay, that's okay. Because I don't know if anyone remembers this or not, but the total cost per corrections officer was almost $64,000 between wages, benefits, insurance, supplies, equipment. It was almost $64,000. So what's needed is about $22,000 for the difference in these job classifications. So the budget committee wanted the about $40,000 remaining, of course, to go to fund balance in the county general fund. So the overall effect will be a slight reduction in expenses in the county general fund with the reduction of 1 of the new corrections officers in the sheriff's department and job classification changes that would increase sergeants by 4.
But 40,000 left over rolls to general fund.
Yes, slight reduction in expenses.
So this number up here could be 3.4996 instead of 3.5. But we understand that that 40,000 is still reserved for the sheriff's department if he needs it.
So, let me get this straight. We gave him money for additional employees.
That he had to have.
But he had to have, it was necessary, to run the new facility and the old facility. So, there wasn't enough money to give the salaries, so he takes one of these employees, money that would have gone to them, so that he could give raises. There was raises and there was money involved.
Not raise,
Well,
job
there's-
classification change.
Okay, was
Which
more
results in
money,
a pay.
but because of that was
Yes.
more money involved.
No, less money actually.
less money
Less
and one
money
less
overall.
employee.
And Commissioner Duff, I had that conversation with him this afternoon. I said, you had to have this many heads. Now, all of a sudden, you're bargaining them off to make changes. You're reducing it. So, I gotta tell you, it falls back on him, period.
What did he say?
$40,000 that goes into general is reserved for him.
It's not reserved anyway.
No, it's
It's just
not.
understood.
There's no reserve put on it.
Not-
No equity is not established.
He said that
Okay.
the sheriff, what the
But
sheriff
I think
say?
what the budget committee meant was, which has been said from the beginning, that after the sheriff hires these employees and the jail is opened, and then next year at budget cycle, if he needs additional employees, then he will come to request additional employees. I
position,
think that's what they meant.
he's
rather
gonna,
than
he's
a
gonna
reserve.
hire 15 jailers.
Why do you
In
get money for
October.
24?
Well, and like I said, that left 9, so actually, he's losing somebody that he's not gonna hire. I mean, he's losing money. He didn't lose any of the 15 that he needs right now to open the jail. But the other 9 that would come later after the jail was open is down to 8.
Well, then what's that stops him from coming back and saying, actually, I need 9, give me the money.
That's what we're saying.
Nothing.
Nothing to do with
And
that.
then we'll drop yourself in the stick.
We have wrestled this thing.
We make money though, we make $40,000.
We
Really
wrestled
comes
this
back
for
down.
3 months. 3 months, this is what's been going on with this process, and I just,
This is,
I've had enough.
this is the third take back.
So what did the budget committee recommend for this?
Why?
What she just said.
What?
To do so, shuffle, get 40,000 refund essentially?
Yeah.
Yes, to reduce the new employees by 1. Add the job classifications as
Give
requested.
us extra vacation.
Love it.
You all remember this next year when he comes in and tells you what he's got to have.
And Adam, I'm referring to the sheriff guy,
Lay it
the
in the
gentleman's name,
house and get it.
but
I'll be
Well,
remembering it,
he
it'll be
will
popping
put us
up.
From a corporal to a sergeant, he does a lot of work for the sheriff in the cars, and getting new cars that this gentleman puts on all of the equipment at no cost. He does this in his home, in his garage, on his time, and he is afraid he would possibly lose that individual.
Okay, the other item that was discussed at the budget committee was consideration of approving funding for the conceptual design of the new annex, $30,000. The budget committee did not recommend approving that until the property is deeded to the county.
No motion to adjourn?
But we did, we have agreed that when we're at that point, we will pay for the court bill.
And I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I was thinking about that during the discussion just a minute ago about the core drilling. Everybody understands there's no appropriation for core drilling either.
No.
There's
But when
no
the time
appropriation.
comes, we can appropriate that.
You can, but it's just that it's not there.
That's
as we
right.
said.
We're gonna let Kelly figure out where to get out of capital projects.
That might be, we won't have all of the money.
Well, there's just no need to sell the bonds.
Tell them early.
I'm gonna get it out.
Right.
You know, if we're not gonna do conceptual design, there's no need to sell the bonds.
I don't know, it's 60,000.
We, on the, and I'm going from memory, on the jail, it's like $13,000 to drill a hole.
Is that
See, I can get it out more.
Yeah, you better get it quick. For a lot of
On
your
the final settlement, before the papers are signed, would it not be a good thing for the county to go ahead pending the court ruling, it comes back appropriate? Because if we go ahead and get the property in exchange and the court ruling does come back negative, can we have an understanding with the city that we do the court ruling prior to signing papers and all that
Yes.
has to be?
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's what
If
I'm.
the court drills bad, we're done, that's
You
it.
can't do a darn thing, you go back to the old courthouse.
Okay.
Back to the courthouse.
I'd say $7 million.
$7 million. I have, Mr. Chairman, I think Kenji Tracy got him right now.
They're moving knots and decimals.
Find another lot of money.
I will.
Did that some past year?
Mr. Chairman, before we lose total control, and I hesitate to do this because Ms. Hurley left, but I'm gonna read you what I've got right here. I sent a text to Bob Goldman that said, you told Ms. Hurley not to speak at all about the fact that she has moved out of the district. His answer, no, I sent her the statute to read today. And what he sent her was what he had already sent myself, you, and I don't know who else. And Kelly and I said, she told us repeatedly that you told her not to speak about it. If anybody had any questions, they should contact you. And his question is, do I need to write an opinion letter for the commissioners? And my opinion of that is, I don't care if he does or not. At this point, it's up to either the district attorney or her constituents to do something about it. She's moved out of her district. I don't care if she wants to speak about it or not. She's in 5th district.
But somebody in her district would have to make the move.
No, somebody in Loudon County.
Anybody in the county can't, and nobody don't have to, the district attorney can take it on his own initiative if he wanted to. Anyhow, I'm just giving you the update on that. He says he did not tell her that she didn't have to speak about it or anything else to that effect. But anyhow, again, I hate to do that, her not here, but I can't.
All he did was send her.
The same stuff he had sent the rest of us. All the stuff I've got in this folder right here, the TCA that says if you leave, you automatically give up your seat.
That's the rules.
That's the rules.
They also define what temporary is.
No, and she didn't come out, I mean, again, she said she didn't move, she said it's temporary, she says, I don't know, I don't know what she did about a situation like this.
That's gonna
It'll be up to the district attorney or some of her constituents, be my guess.
Yeah.
We don't have the authority to kind of do anything.
But the election commission cannot do anything.
No.
No, all they can do is say the next time she runs, she'll have to run in the 5th district because she don't live in 2nd.
Unless they define.
The other bad part is temporary has no definition. It's not 12 months, 9 months.
Or a year.
But if someone's, I'm asking a question, I'm not accusing, if someone says on a video they're selling their house, if somebody has a lease to lease it to somebody, that's intent, is it not?
Many of you have seen the videos. She put them on Facebook. I bought me a new house. I'll be moved in Wednesday. I'm selling this house. Then we have the videos of her in her new house unpacking her stuff. We have posts of her locking herself out of her new house, sitting on the front porch. We have posts of housewarming gifts at her new house. We have the Facebook post of the lady that was going to be buying her house and moving in the halfway house into it, that she told Buddy she was having foundation work done on it. And she don't live in the 2nd district, whether it's temporary or not, I couldn't tell you.
So what do our constituents have to do?
Doesn't have to be a constituent.
What do we have to do?
Call the district attorney. Yeah, that's my opinion. Or you can just file a full warrant on suit with Chancellor Williams.
Okay, and then?
Then he would have to hear the evidence. Somebody would have to hire an attorney and all that sort of stuff.
But you can take it to the district attorney.
You try the district attorney first.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Judgment on that. Anyhow, I'll make a motion, we quit.